Namaste everyone and welcome back. Today we are decoding a massive, and I mean absolutely massive topic for pharmacy students. If you're tracking along with your syllabus, we're jumping right into medicinal chemistry 2, specifically Unit 1.3. We're going to master gastric proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs. We'll look exactly at how these drugs literally shut down gastric acid production right at the source, totally building on what we already figured out from our study of H2 agents. Let's jump right into the explainer. Here's our roadmap for today. We've got 1. The acid problem. 2. The sleeper agent. 3. Mechanism of action. 4. 4 key PPI drugs. And finally, number 5. Chemical structure comparisons.
All right, kicking things off with part 1, the acid problem, when the stomach attacks itself.
Now I want you to really think about this question as we dive in. How does a tiny pill, swallowed with just a normal glass of water, know exactly when and where to stop stomach acid? And how does it do that without shutting down everything else in your body? Honestly, it's just an absolute masterclass in chemical engineering.
So, to answer that, we really got to look at why we need these drugs in the very first place, right? Inside the body, particularly the stomach, acid, specifically hydrochloric acid, or HCl, is naturally produced. But when there's an overproduction, this excess acid literally attacks the protective layer of the stomach. That's what leads to the formation of those super painful ulcers. Now sure, we have drugs like sucralfate, which act as protective agents. They basically form a physical shield over the ulcer to protect it from further damage, but they don't actually solve the root problem. To truly stop the acid production at the source, we need inhibitors. We need a drug that walks in and completely shuts down the acid factory itself.
Which brings us perfectly to part 2. The sleeper agent, introducing the prodrug.
So proton pump inhibitors are what we call prodrugs. What does that actually mean? Well, if you're holding a PPI, like omeprazole, in the palm of your hand, and you're just looking at it, that pill is completely 100% inactive. It literally cannot do any work. It's basically sleeping. It absolutely requires the environment of your own body to wake it up. It only becomes pharmacologically active after you administer it, and it finally reaches the right location.
All right, part 3, mechanism of action inside the parietal cell.
Okay, let's really dive into this. How exactly does the sleeper agent wake up and do its job? Well, here is the 4-step awakening process that happens right inside the parietal cells of your stomach. Step 1, you swallow the inactive PPI on an empty stomach. Step 2, the drug reaches the stomach wall, where a very specific enzyme interacts with it, officially activating our sleeper agent. Step 3, once it's activated, the drug releases this absolutely crucial chemical compound called thiophilic sulfonamide. And finally, step 4, this newly released compound goes straight to the potassium hydrogen pump. That's the K plus H plus ATPase pump, and just completely blocks it.
So the real crucial point here is understanding what blocking that pump actually means chemically. Normally, this pump pulls potassium in and pushes hydrogen ions out into the stomach. Those hydrogen ions then bond with chlorine to create HCl, stomach acid. But because our thiophilic sulfonamide has blocked the pump, potassium can't enter, and more importantly, hydrogen can't exit. If there's no hydrogen going out, well, there's nothing for the chlorine to bond with. The production of HCl just stops entirely, and your acidity drops. It is such a brilliant mechanism.
Moving right along to part 4, 4 key PPI drugs, the agent dossiers.
Now to actually master the chemical structure of these drugs for your exams, you really need a visual trick. Think of the base structure of a PPI almost like a drawing. You literally just draw one straight house, one upside down house, and then you connect them over a mountain in the middle. If you can just visualize that basic framework, you can draw any PPI by simply changing the small chemical attachments on the edges. Let's actually see how this works in practice.
Now what's really interesting here is just how simple omeprazole is to draw when we use our mnemonic. Omeprazole is the standard drug you've probably given to someone or maybe even taken yourself on an empty stomach for acidity. It reduces hypersecretory conditions and treats ulcers. Structurally, you just draw your straight house, your upside down house, and your mountain. Then all you do is attach your methyl groups, the CH3, and an oxygen or O group to the rings. And that's it. That is your foundational drug right there.
Next up, let's take a look at lansoprazole. Clinically speaking, this one is used to prevent gastric ulcers, reduce acid secretion, and it's specifically noted for treating Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. Chemically, if you look at the structure, everything we literally just learned remains exactly the same. You keep the base. The only difference you need to remember for your exam is the addition of a CF3 group attached to the ring. That CF3 addition is exactly what makes lansoprazole unique.
Our third agent is ribabaxol, This one provides excellent protection against both duodenal and stomach ulcers, and it's highly effective at specifically targeting daytime heartburn. Now look at how the structure evolves here. We take the lansoprazole structure and we drop the fluorine entirely. The F is just gone. In its place, rabibaxol features extra oxygen or O and methoxy or OCH3 groups. The core remains totally untouched. We're essentially just swapping the attachments.
Finally, we have pantoprazole. This is a real heavy-duty blocker. It's taken on an empty stomach when acidity problems become really severe, actively preventing ulcer formation from all that excess acid. Chemically, it's kind of a return to form. It removes those extra OCH3 groups we just saw in rabeprazole, and it brings the F, the fluorine, right back into the chemical structure. All the wild changes are stripped away, leaving this streamlined, highly effective molecule.
And that brings us to Part 5, Chemical Structure Comparisons. Spot the difference.
Look, if you can master this specific contrast right here between lansoprazole and rabeprazole, the entire class of drugs becomes so incredibly easy to memorize. Lansoprazole is defined by that CF3 group attached to the ring. Rabeprazole, on the other hand, drops the F entirely and swabs in an O and OCH3 groups. The base, those houses and mountain, never change. You are only ever memorizing the specific chemical additions on the periphery.
And this brilliantly illustrates the entire structure-activity relationship, or SAR, in one incredibly simple mental cheat sheet. Notice the pattern here. You can clearly see how every single drug relies on the exact same core structure of standard rings. Omeprazole starts us off with CH3 and O. Lansoprazole introduces CF3. Rabeprazole drops the F for O and OCH3, and then pantoprazole cleans it all up by dropping the extras and bringing the F back. If you can just picture this layout in your mind, you are going to absolutely ace any structure question on these proton pump inhibitors.
I really want to leave you with this final thought from our source material today, which just beautifully sums up the entire study of medicinal chemistry. Quote, "If you understand H1 antagonists, you'll understand H2. If you understand H2, you'll understand proton pump inhibitors." End quote. All of these mechanisms correlate. They literally all build on each other. It is just one beautifully interconnected puzzle waiting to be solved. So, the next time you encounter a completely new class of drugs, I want you to ask yourself, what existing mechanism is this secretly building upon? Keep making those connections, guys, and I'll see you in the next explainer.